Y'all ever look at your life and realize how much of a survivor that you are? Like, you look at all the events that have happened and you realize that if somebody had told you that this these particular events would unravel in your life, you would still be okay. When I was 3 years old, my dad died and he had diabetes. But it wasn't necessarily the diabetes that killed him. Now it was there was a I guess you can say like it was the root cause. But when you're dealing with diabetes, sometimes other things take place and it can just take you out. So for the longest time I thought that I lost my dad to diabetes, which in some which in a way I did. But then I ended up reading up on a few papers later on that was still laying around, that my mom left behind. And he ended up actually dying from a bacterial disease. It was something that he caught. I don't know like the ins and outs of it. I just remember reading papers and basically my mom ended up suing the hospital that he went to because she brought him to the hospital and they sent him home and just told him to take some type of over the counter medicine. Something that could have totally been prevented, I believe. In 2013, I lost my mother to cancer. So, of course, this is a large gap, but I was in my mid-20s when that happened. So, that year before she died, she ended up having breast cancer. That's how it first came about. She went, had surgery, came back. The cancer returned within that same year. Within that same year, at the end of the year. So she caught breast cancer in 2012. It came back at the end of 2012. And by 2013, March, she was gone. In 2018, I lost my brother to a heart attack. Now, there's some things that took place in between these years. I won't speak on it right now. But when you look at some of the things that you have been through in your life and you find yourself like thinking like, dang, if somebody had told me this was going to happen and then they told me that I would be okay and I would survive it, it would probably have been like, you probably would be paranoid. You probably would take every precaution there is, and at the same time, when you actually think about everything that's unraveled, you'll realize that it still probably wouldn't have prevented it because life happened how it's supposed to. Do I believe that sometimes things take place and we can prevent it. Yes, I do. Um, but when I look at the things that have taken place with my immediate family, it's almost like I probably would have cried myself to death. I I really do believe that. The interesting thing about all of this that has taken place, as traumatic as it is, and there are a lot of things that I have had to deal with because of these different events that have taken place and that I still deal with. The interesting thing about all of this is that I feel like losing my immediate family is what has helped me to survive and what has helped me to I feel like it's the reason why I'm still on this earth. I went through, which I will get into in a few more other videos later on down the line. Throughout those years, I dealt with extreme anxiety and depression. Um, like when I say depression, I mean like it. So I believe that depression hits everybody differently. But if I could give like an example of how harsh depression felt to me, it was almost as if I was down in this black hole and I couldn't see anything but darkness, just dark clouds. Almost to the point, well, a lot of times, not almost, a lot of times to the point where I almost forgot what the outside world looked like. That's the best way, like right now, that's the best way I can describe how harsh depression was for me throughout the years. Like it's like a um if you ever been in a dark room and you know the light is there for you to turn it on, but you let's say you can't move to turn it on, like you didn't have the strength to go and reach out and turn it on. That's how it felt for me. And then it was like I would snap out of it and I would remember like, dang, like the sun is actually shining outside. But it was almost like I couldn't get to it. Because my anxiety was so bad, like y'all, I'm telling you, like you have you have social anxiety on one end and you have depression on the other end. And both of these things are fighting you at the same time. I remember I've always had like a relationship with God, but you know, of course, you skip throughout the years. Some years you just don't talk, um, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. Um, I remember watching a, um, I remember watching a show on, well, it was a Steve Harvey show. I don't even remember. I think it was like Steve Harvey radio station. I was listening to it, and he was saying something specifically about developing a relationship with God. And so um, I remember this was before my mother died. I remember feeling the things that I was feeling and basically being like bound to my room. And I remember actually like starting a relationship with God and asking him, pleading with him that he would not let me die like this. because I really didn't see no other way to live my life. Because my life was just, by this time, I'm not in school. I'm just bound to my room. My life is just, I eat, I sleep, I read my books, I write, wake up, start the next day over again. I go out, okay, if I go out, I'm with my mother or I'm with family. I was not living life at all. I had no car, no license, nothing. I literally was not living life at all. I remember developing this relationship with God, and after I asked him, like, dang, like I don't want to like die this way, right? Because I'm just basically just sitting here dreaming. I'm dreaming about singing on stage. I'm dreaming about writing books and being published. I'm dreaming about having my own car. I'm dreaming about falling in love. I'm dreaming about doing everyday things that people do that sometimes we take for granted. But when you're mentally locked up, you just you kind of like you just in a everyday day to day just dreaming about the life you could possibly have, even just the simplest thing. And I remember almost, I guess you can call it like an epiphany. I remember having an epiphany that there's a possibility that I would have to lose my mother for me to live. And of course, at the time, like the thought scared me. It's just like, dang, like I don't know what I would do if I lost my mom. Well, fast forward to now. It is the year 2025, and I have my own car, and I have my own apartment, and I have a job, and I have friends. And if I had not lost my mother, which was my foundation, if my world had not been shooken up, I'm not sure if I would have survived. I think that sometimes, we try to reason with the events in our life, like, dang, if I had have did this, if I hadn't have did that, if I had of, if only I had have made this decision. But the truth was, it wasn't in me. I didn't have it in me to do it. So I had to accept that part. I had to accept that I just didn't have it in me to live my life at that time. I knew I wanted to survive. I knew I wanted to go out and live life, but I didn't know what it would take for me to do. Sometimes for you to live the life that you want and the life that you desire, something in your life has to die, because that is the only way that you'll survive. And I've come to know and I've come to realize that my mom, like, she's not, my dad and my mom and my brother, they are not necessarily dead. Like, they're dead in the physical sense, like in the human sense. But spiritually, I still have them, and they are still there. They are still here in the spiritual realm, and I may not be able to hear them or see them, but they see everything that I've wanted, and they see that I survive through losing them, even though I do still have them.